get set? Where them hands? Where them holes? Where them throws? You know what I'm saying?
And while they were here, they always wore masks.
If it sounds like I'm rushing through this video, I apologize. I don't mean to be insensitive to this subject, but there are a couple of things. One, I have a lot to say about this subject, these subjects. Two, people are acting like they're totally brand new, like they don't understand that there's been a problem with racism. Definitely as long as I've been alive, at least 50 years. And I find that kind of frustrating because the solutions to a lot of these problems that we're having among race and trying to understand why people are doing the things that they're doing with regards to race and hatred, the solutions have been around for decades. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to reference 3 books that I know are solutions to this problem before I go into how, which is the focus of this channel, how the martial arts dovetails with this stuff and can help with this stuff. And I'm going to put links to these books below. The first book is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy by Neely Fuller, Jr. The links I'm going to put to these books will have you be able to get these books, I believe, for free. So you can't accuse me of trying to make money off this. And back in the day, whenever I would bring these topics up, people would say that I'm bringing these up because I have a problem, not because there is a problem. So Neely Fuller Jr.'s book talks about racism and actually gives you good recommendations for solving the race problem. His main thing is to replace white supremacy with justice. I mean, if we did that, we would not have white supremacy. The second book I'm going to reference is called The ISIS Papers by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, also known as The ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's work talks about things that we're calling critical race theory now, replacement theory. She goes into the science behind why people would think that way. And there is some science to it. I'm not saying that to justify white supremacists. And I don't think she wrote that stuff to justify white supremacists. What she does is explain their fears from a scientific standpoint. And whenever I heard her talk about the subject, she didn't talk about hating anyone. Her idea for solution was not to go around demonizing, but just to discuss this stuff so that we could deal with it. And the third book I'm going to reference, which I think has the answers to a lot of these types of problems and others, and most problems that you're going to face in your life, is the Bible. The Bible. Which Bible? I specifically recommend the Catholic Bible. That's going to address a lot of problems. You know why? Because the Catholic Bible, pulling mine up now, I'm going to make sure that it has it in here. Excuse me. The Catholic Bible, yes. It has the book of Sirach in it. And the book of Sirach is the book that tells you to go to the Bible. It tells you to go to the doctor. So if you're looking for a book of wisdom and problem solving, get a version of the Bible that has the book of Sirach in it. Because that will tell you to go to the doctor and trust medical opinions. A lot of Christians get this rap by people who are not Christians as saying that, we're anti-doctor, that we're anti-science. If you would read the book of Sirach, it puts everything in its proper place. There's no reason why you cannot believe in God and the doctor. Now let's get back to the subject and title of this video. The shootings that took place with the Buffalo shooter who targeted people at Top Supermarket, that was white supremacist Peyton Grandin, and the Geneva Presbyterian Laguna Woods church shooting where a Chinese immigrant, David Chow, 68 years old, killed Taiwanese Americans. Now, if you want to talk about this is why I train in martial arts, I've told people for years I trained in martial arts because I was worried about being targeted by, I could be targeted by a racist. I could be targeted by somebody within my own race that's just angry and violent. Of course, I was told I was being hateful, cynical, paranoid. Well, do you believe me now, people? When people who have doubted me on this stuff, who've tried to act like those of us who train in the martial arts because we know that there's evil in the world. See, when you take race out of it, there's evil in the world because everyone who was at the Geneva Presbyterian Laguna Woods church shooting, they were all in the same race, all Americans. These were a bunch of Asian Americans. These were all older people, totally defying stereotypes. The man who laid down his life trying to stop the gunman, Dr. John Chang, was a 52-year-old, and from what I understand, he was also a martial artist. And there was something I saw in the martial arts community on Facebook that said he practiced praying mantis kung fu. And based on witness statements, he charged the shooter, attempted to disarm him, and he got hit after he had taken the shooter to the ground. I guess the gun went off, and he passed away at the scene. So when I think about that, some people will say, well, that shows you that the martial arts aren't good for handling violent situations because you could be killed. And it also shows you that Christianity, won't save you from getting shot. Well, maybe that's true. Or you could look at it as the martial arts would give you the fighting spirit so that you don't have a spirit of fear when you're confronted by by some type of hateful gun-toting killer. And also, the religion of Christianity can give you the wherewithal that you would sacrifice your life for others the way Christ sacrificed his life for the church. So that's something else that you can think about. Sorry, I just got interrupted. So, and this is not the last time this type of stuff's going to happen. And we can look at the Buffalo shooter that was, again, Peyton Grendon, an 18-year-old who specifically went out targeting black people at Tops Supermarket. He went there to kill black people. If a lot of this stuff is not enough to make you want to take a martial arts class so that you can defend yourself, and also take shooting lessons so that you can possibly get a concealed carry permit, I don't carry a gun because most of where I spend my time in government buildings, I would not be able to have a gun, and it would be more hassle than not for me to carry a gun. And I still think that if I showed up, even though I'm supposed to be able to go to these buildings, notify security, I have a gun, where can I check it in? I think that I would be looked at like I'm a problem and that I'm trying to cause something if I show up with a gun. I think it's more trouble than it's worth for me to have a gun outside of my property. Inside of my property, fine. Got all the paperwork for that. But outside of my property, call me wrong. I would love to be wrong about that, but I don't think so. I think still, despite the fact that at the time of this video, we have all the reasons in the world for definitely two groups of Americans, African Americans and Asian Americans, to all be packing. Right? Because this Presbyterian church, there have been Asian hate crimes that have occurred, non-Asians attacking Asians around the time of this video. So you would think that more black people, more Asian people would be armed. Still, I think there would be a problem. And, if you can't get to a gun, or if your gun jams, that's what your empty hand techniques are for. You have to be at a distance to actually use a gun. That's what your empty hand techniques are for too. And the empty hand training is also to train you to have the fighting spirit so that if something happens, if you're in a position to fight, you can fight. I mean, I guess there's really nothing else for me to say about this. Violence is part of the human condition. Around the time of this video, we have a situation where race was not a factor. There was still lethal violence. And both of these shooters drove 200 miles away from where they lived to victimize people that had nothing to do with them, just because they did not like those people. One's racially motivated, one is not. One's young, one's old. So you cannot say that it's a factor of youth. You cannot say it is just that, well, if we get rid of all racism, then we want to get rid of violence. That's not true. Violence is a part of the human condition. Some of us are going to have to protect ourselves against it. Ourselves, because the police cannot be everywhere at the same time. And unfortunately, in order for most of us to be safe, it looks like we're going to have situations where some of us are going to have to lay down our lives. I submit to you that the martial arts are going to give you the best chance of survival. Martial arts training, of course, martial arts training and being armed with a firearm would be ideal. But hey, if you can't do one, do the other. Some people can easily get a firearm and they won't have a problem if they carry because of their body, which they feel like may not allow them to do martial arts. Then I say to those people, get armed. If we all get together and do what we can put a damper on this stuff. In addition to, of course, reporting bad things when we see them and not feeding and fueling hate. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share with people like to talk about the martial arts in peace. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And don't forget those 3 books that I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I'm not going to get royalties from. But if you're really serious about understanding why we got these type of problems that we have in this world, check out those books. Peace.